Why is God in the Constitution? You know, in Canada in particular, you see this all the time. In the U.S., you know, the Declaration, or the preamble to the Constitution is wonderful, because it says, "We the people of the United States, in order to establish domestic tranquility," and some other things. It says, but it goes on to say, "do ordain and establish." Okay, an ordination is it's a Christian thing that goes on, and so that's what is implied, that God is involved, and that's 100% correct. The founding fathers really knew the threats to the Constitution, and they really tried to put as much stuff in there as possible to prevent exactly what's going on today, and we'll talk about that in the paid presentation. Our rights come from God. In Canada, you know, the Communist Party, which they have renamed themselves to the New Democratic Party, although one's the same as the next, they're all communist in my opinion. But anyways, just different shades. And they always, every once in a while, every few years, you'll have them coming up saying, "We want to take God out of the Constitution." Well, you know, first of all, Canada doesn't have a Constitution. But second of all, the Queen has an oath of office that mentions God, and so they will never ever be allowed to do that. But you know, they like to. It's for consumption for all the sheeple out there that think that they have some authority over them, and so anyways, invariably. They know exactly what they're doing, because they definitely want to take God out of the Constitution, because if God goes out of the Constitution, your rights are up for grabs, because if God's in the Constitution, then it's implied that our rights come from God, and if he's not in there, then they're up for grabs. Anybody can get them, and that's exactly what they'll do, and they've been practicing that. This has been going on for thousands of years. The hierarchy, okay, you have God, King of Kings, created we the people created the government, and the government created corporations, and so therefore there's the hierarchy. God created us, we created corporations. It's interesting to note that in the scriptures it says that God is no respecter of persons. Well, you know, a lot of people think that he's saying that the scriptures are saying that he doesn't respect rich people and poor people and all that. He doesn't respect, doesn't matter. And it might be saying that, but I think, see, a person's a fictitious entity, and so a person is a fiction that we created to facilitate certain things, usually theft. That's what most of these corporations are set up for, so they can engage in theft, and in my opinion, and God doesn't respect our fictitious entities. I think that's a more correct way of saying it. So anyways, where does sovereignty come from? Sovereignty exists because of common law. The people of all countries with the common law of England owe their sovereignty to the common law. In Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and all common law countries, in the world, the people are the sovereignty. And I believe in all countries of the world. The question is finding case law and stuff like that that's going to support it. There's a common law of Russia. Okay, they instead of calling them counties, they call them boroughs. Okay, there's a common law of Europe. Common laws all over the place. Okay, even in Louisiana. Okay, and Quebec. Okay, they say they have civil law there. Well, they talk about common law in their court cases. So all of this stuff about civil law is just a smokescreen. Anyways, so how does government get the authority to take your money and give it to someone else? Okay, how does government ignore the Constitution? These are all things that we're going to talk about in our next presentation, and it's because you give it to them, and you volunteered in, and it's because of your own ignorance of the law. I'm assuming that it is your ignorance of the law. Maybe you want to be a slave. I don't know, but I know I don't. And so if you want to be a slave, well, then that's your choice. I mean, it is a free country. You know, you are free to be a slave if you want. And so if you want to be a slave, then you can. There's no doubt about it. If you want more information, then here's some information that you can contact, the places that you can contact me to find out more information. Okay, so now we're going to pause it a little bit, and what we'll do is I'll start the next presentation. So now what we're going to talk about is about common law. And again, all of the countries of the world, common law. There's a common law of Russia, There's a common law of every country that I've seen. I've seen court cases that where the Philippines. Did you know there's common law in the Philippines? As a matter of fact, the Philippines is part of the American Empire. And I've seen court cases where lawyers in the Philippines were complaining about having to pay customs when they ship something to the U.S. because they said the Philippines is part of the United States. And the Philippines is, because the Philippines was liberated in the Second World War, or so-called liberated. But the statute says that they have to pay customs. And so that's all the courts care about, is what the statute says. But so then if you think about it, I mean, Japan was conquered, that's why there's common law there. Matter of fact, there's a friend of mine that was in Japan, and he showed me his Japanese driver's license. There's no picture on it. And that's how they do it in England. So, and all the banking is done at the post office. I mean, I think that there's some real power in that, quite frankly, because the post office is de jure. And so, everybody has an account at the post office. Well, there's some very interesting things, I'll tell you. Anyways, so the point is that common law is all over the place. And I believe it's everywhere. I have evidence to believe it's in Louisiana, which is supposed to be a civil law state, and in Quebec, which is supposed to be civil law. Matter of fact, if you read the court cases, I don't care what the brain dead idiots in the news media say. What do the courts say? And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about common law today. Common law was brought to England with the Magna Carta, and this can be found in the Commentaries on the Laws of England by Sir Edward Coke, and it existed prior to the Magna Carta, and probably has existed from the beginning of time. Matter of fact, a lot of it's found in the Bible, and that's actually what Blackstone said, is that it comes from the Bible. This is taken out of the first part of the Institutes of the Laws of England by Sir Edward Coke, and it says the law of England is divided into three parts: the common law, which is the most general and ancient law of the realm; statutes or acts of parliament; and particular customs. The common law appeareth in the statute of Magna Carta and other ancient statutes, which for the most part are affirmations of the common law. Which means, an affirmation is something that is just saying that it's here. It was here already, but all it's saying is, yeah, we know it's here. That's what it's saying. And so common law was there before. Now there's legislative law too. And there's two kinds of legislative law. There's positive law and non-positive law. And we're going to talk a little bit about positive law. That's law passed with legitimate authority. Now, there's certain things that have to happen for a bill to become a law. And if they don't happen, then it's not positive law. That's why it says law passed with legitimate authority. Law that's signed by the president. Law that has been read 3 times like it's supposed to be read. A law that has been signed by both houses. That kind of thing. There's certain things that have to be done before it'll be considered positive law. And it's law passed, anything that's positive law is law passed to protect the rights of the people. This is all taken out of Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. Anyways, non-positive law is the other kind of law that you see, and that's colorable legislation. And we're going to look at some words again, and so you need to keep this in mind. Colorable legislation, or color of law, remember, is non-positive law. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to take it right from their own mouths. And applies to certain groups of people, and it does not apply to we the people. And operates as a contract. And again, the burden's on you. If you're walking down the street and some guy comes up to you and says, you owe me $50, and you say, is there some contract here? Well, then that's the issue, isn't it? But if the guy comes up to you and walks on the street and says, you owe me $50, and you said, well, I already paid you $35, well, then you just admitted the contract. That's exactly what you did. Now you're discussing the terms of the contract. So you just admitted it. And so that's the question, isn't it? Are you in some contract? Have you consented?